This is one of my most favorite topics, and it should be a favorite topic of any copywriter or marketer who wants to be known as a producer, as someone who can create and keep profitable customers. And I'm going to teach it to you today, but it plays into what Dan Kennedy says. Now, Dan Kennedy is a marketing genius, millionaire maker, but Dan Kennedy says, he who can pay the most for a customer will win. That means whoever can pay the most for a customer can beat their competition, can outpace the marketplace, can have extra funds available for additional acquisition. There's so many things. So what we're going to talk about today is some of the math and metrics necessary to get maximum pay, to get maximum value for your client, to grow your copywriting business. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips, and I know that a lot of folks are really excited about the copy itself. And the copy is important, but you're judged upon the conversion rate and the results of that copy more than you are on the aesthetic of the copy or how it reads. Now, you will find clients who will look at a piece of copy and say, wow, this is great. Let's use this. I love it. I love the angle. Wow, that's creative. You will get clients like that, but they don't last very long if they're not measuring conversion rates, cost per sale, cost per lead, customer lifetime value, all these metrics, all these things on the back end. And when I talk about this topic, many copywriters and marketers cringe. And they cringe because it is not creative, it is math. It is actual math. Now, it reinforces the fact that copywriting and marketing is behavioral science combined with math. It's behavioral modification and math to determine which modifications are profitable, both for the client and for yourself. But you can't cringe about this, because if you don't measure, or you're at least not aware of conversion tracking and measuring, then there's no way to objectively measure the value of your copy, and you're going to be stuck working for somebody else. You're going to be stuck as a subcontractor, as a piece person, in the sense that you're going to write a couple sales letters and then that customer's not going to come back. If you want repeat customers, you've got to help your customer understand that we are measuring the copy, and that's how we know it works. We measure a lead generation piece by the number of quality leads that we achieve. Now, that discussion about the quality lead is a great way to collect information about what is a quality lead, who tends to buy from your products and services. On the technical side, because again, we're an agency that does the technical integration, it does the setup, it helps with the metrics, it helps with the analytics. And then many of the copywriters layer copy on top of that, and then we can tell what works and what doesn't. But ultimately, we can tell what is a good lead by which leads become customers. Now, let's put the money in on this. So we're going to have many, many sources of traffic. So when a client comes to you and says, I want more traffic, they could just post whatever you create for them on more websites that have people interested in that topic. That's the typical way people do it. They have an opt-in page. Maybe you wrote a lead generation piece that's living on an opt-in page. And they are currently using Facebook, but now they're going to use Pinterest, TikTok, BitChute, Rumble, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Now, they made the work harder for themselves because they've got more stuff on the front end, but each of those platforms will reach different people. People tend to use one or two social media platforms, and sometimes they'll move between platforms, but these platforms represent pools of audience and potential lists for your offer. And in this case, the offer is an opt-in. And that opt-in maybe has an A-B split on the opt-in form itself. So you have one landing page, and the form A-B splits between two different kind of offers. And so now you have coding in place on each of these platforms, which links to the opt-in page. And then once they opt in, you can tell which of these mediums, and whether you set up a UTM code or you're just using Google Analytics, you can kind of tell which referrers or which sources and mediums generated the opt-in. And so that's a great way of measuring. Now, an opt-in does not have a monetary value to it. So all we know is that we've got more leads. In order to know if those leads have any value at all, we now need to measure of the leads that convert, which leads become customers. So that means you have to make an offer to these leads. So if you're structuring a lead generation landing page, you want to make sure they have some immediate offer after the opt-in. So in the either the email series that follows, or the text broadcast that follow, or whatever means of communications after the opt-in, there must be an offer. Otherwise, you won't be able to know which of these leads were of best value. Now, a more sophisticated client could use a audience match. And so what they're doing is they're looking at the leads that you generate from your opt-in versus the leads they generate anywhere else. But it's not likely that your customers are doing that, because it's so much easier to determine which of these leads bought something. It's kind of like two columns. It's like the source and medium, and then the next column is the number of conversions. In this case, these conversions are opt-ins. And then the third column is revenue. And so you're looking at two columns at a time. Which source and lead produced the greatest amount of conversions? Which source and leads created the greatest amount of buyers? And then the revenue side is what we use to retarget, and now we can amplify the opt-in page you wrote. So when a client comes to you and says, hey, write me an opt-in page, if they're not doing all these other things, they might have you write another opt-in page, but they're not going to be able to objectively determine whether your original opt-in page was any good. And if they don't get the results that they were looking for, and I'm using air quotes because I don't know if you've ever heard it before, but a client says, oh, we liked your copy, worked really good, but we didn't get the results we were expecting. If you haven't determined those results up front, and you haven't built a funnel to measure those results, then of course in cap it with the conversion, then yeah, of course they're never going to be happy, and maybe you don't want them as a client, but it's so much better to get that second job, that third job, that fourth job, because the client can objectively measure and they have the system in place. Now, I understand you don't want to be a technical person, and that's why our agency is here. That's why we run this newsletter. That's why we hire so many of the subscribers of the newsletter to write copy for very well-structured environments where we are doing conversion tracking, where the client can pay as much money as possible to get a customer because they know their conversion rates, and ultimately they have a funnel that is measurable and accountable, and they have an idea of who is a buyer, because the very best lead is a buyer. So we're measuring the conversion rate from the outside source to the opt-in. We're measuring the conversion rate from the opt-in to the close or to the sale at a minimum. You can measure more, but again, if they're not measuring the basics, then how will they know if your copy was any good? But even that is not an objective measure, because we haven't put in the costs. So you need to know the costs, and that's a ratio to the revenue. You need to know the cost per lead as well as the cost per sale, and you want to make sure that your costs are below the revenue numbers. Now, on the front end, it's better that a client know that if they have a $397 product, that they can spend up to $397 for a new customer. They aren't going to like that, because they're going to say, well, we didn't make any money. And that's true. If you got a lot of new customers and you didn't have any repeat sales, then yeah, you're going to lose money. But more accurately, we're going to look at that margin on that original product, and we're going to base our numbers and calculations on that margin. So pay close attention. We're going to cover that here towards the end, where you can actually measure and determine how much should we be paying cost per click. What is the value of the lead you generated from organic traffic versus the value of the lead you generated from some other traffic? Even how to factor in your costs in the campaign so that they have a more accurate cost per click, more accurate cost per lead, more accurate cost per sale. But remember, it's cost per click, cost per lead, cost per sale against the profit per sale to determine whether a campaign worked. And so if you start working with a client and they say, oh, write me 2 lead generation pages, we're gonna test those out on our website, you want to ask, a little question. You want to say, hey, tell me a little bit about how you're going to test this copy. Because the information, if they test it the right way, can give you behavioral information, audience segments, customer avatars, different things like that. And if they just say, well, we're just going to put it up on the website, throw some traffic at it, see what happens, that is not a customer that's very good. You want customers who know, for example, their earnings per 1,000 impressions. So I've got a podcast. You're listening to it right now. And this podcast goes out on Spreaker, which syndicates to iHeartRadio, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, all these different channels. The description has a link that's coded, and in the podcast itself, it offers somebody to go to the website. When I say, go and ask your questions at such and such a website, I have to get a hard lead because I don't know where you came from because that's a type-in address. But if you go down in the description and you click the link for the newsletter and you join the free newsletter, I'll have an idea of the source and the lead, or the source and the medium of the conversion. And of course, the medium will be where I first post the content, not necessarily where I've drilled down content. But if I start seeing referral traffic from YouTube on my podcast, I can go in and customize I can keep the description the same there, and I could use what I learned there to customize the descriptions elsewhere, and then I would tune that down. But your media ecosystem, you don't have to worry about all those little steps. Now, of course, if you're doing Facebook optimization or Twitter optimization or YouTube optimization, you might write specific content per platform. But what we're talking about here to determine the revenue per impression, which will come out of the platform, and how that equates to what you can afford to spend to get a lead is very important. Because if you're making any money in the channel, so I'm making money in Spreaker, I make $2.99 per 1,000 impressions. So every time someone listens to a podcast, some places there's a commercial in the front, and I get $2.99 earning per 1,000 there. But on Rumble, I get $3.13 earning per impression. Now, the reason I share this with you is because that is a distraction from the underlying revenue and conversion measurements, but it is also informative because now I know of every click-through in the description to the website whose medium is Spreaker, that I can actually bonus my cost. I can pay more because I have revenue per 1,000. And so I have to draw this out on paper. When we do a workshop, by the way, and this is a prelude to a workshop, we'll actually draw this out on a board, and you'll know exactly how to calculate this, and you'll know how to determine based on the number of impressions in a platform, because our ecosystem's large, how much can you afford to pay in that platform per a click. Now, I am leading up to paid advertising. If your clients are not doing paid advertising, they are not accurately able to measure the value of your copy because they won't have the tools and they won't have the incentive to boost that conversion of highly qualified, easy to convert leads. But here's the thing. We want to ask the clients, where are you making money? What offers do you have that make money? Where are you getting your customers from today? Where are you finding that customers buy faster in less time than in other ways? Because what this helps you do is to put your copy in front of a stream of buyers so that these ancillary revenue sources, because I don't get any money from YouTube, I don't get any money from some of these other channels. I don't get paid anything on iHeartRadio, but iHeartRadio I can advertise on and reach a larger audience because there is a good traction there. But ultimately, you have to find out what works for them because we want to amplify what works. We don't want to pioneer in some new audience. We don't want to be, if they say, hey, Facebook works, you don't want to say, oh, well, let's go start advertising on LinkedIn. You want to make sure that the opt-in page that you write, in this particular example, is going to convert as strongly as possible because we're amplifying things that we know already work. So if you don't get access to their analytics, if you don't get that conversation about what works and what doesn't, and frankly, if they don't know, then we've got to go back in and make sure their analytics is set up correctly. because this last section is very important. I talked about a $397 product. That $397 product, let's say it's their main product. In this case, it is a paid consultation because they are a company who starts with a paid consultation. Maybe they credit the paid consultation to the first purchase because they have a high ticket product. We want to know on the base conversion, and I'll tell you what that is here shortly. We want to know how much we can spend cost per click. So here's where the rubber meets the road. And here's how you can help them start calculating this. Now, your cost, so they're going to hire you. I always put that cost in their conversion numbers because if they can convert and pay me money, then they can pay me more money when they have more conversion. Okay, that's a writer downer. That's very important. If the client is including your cost in their conversion metrics and they can make money paying you to write them copy, then when they make more money, they can pay you more money to write copy. So you have a $397 paid consultation with a 50% margin. That leaves you a net of $198.50 for every sale of a paid consultation. When we're doing these metrics, we always start with the end result in mind. We start with the product itself, and then we are trying to figure out the net of that product because it is possible that they're selling a $397 product and they have a negative net on the first conversion, and then that's when we got to figure out how to get that up. They don't need another lead page. They need better conversion on the back end. And so here, if we have $198.50 per sale, and we have an estimated base conversion rate of for every 200 impressions, we get one conversion. Now, that's a horrible conversion rate, but it's very conservative. If the client is not doing for every 200 impressions, you get one sale, then that's where you need to work. You don't need another lead page. You need a conversion. But it's possible for every 20 impressions on that offer, they're going to get one monetary conversion, and that's even better. But what we're basically doing is taking the profit and dividing it by whatever that many is. So if it's 200 to 1, you're going to take $198.50 and divide it by 200, and the maximum cost per click that they can pay for the offer that drives to that particular conversion is 99 cents. Now, why is this important? Because if they're spending $3 to get a click, then there's no way they're going to make any money on that initial sale or even break even on the initial sale. But if they're paying 50 cents per click, then they can do that all day long and they're going to have a net. Now, why is this important? Well, because that tells us the difference between driving a pay-per-click to an offer, monetary offer, or building a newsletter or building some kind of opt-in, then driving to the offer. See, it determines how we structure the marketing campaign. So now you're talking with the client, and the client says, oh, yeah, we want you to drive traffic to this offer. Great. Tell me about the offer. How much is the offer? What's your net margin? What's your current conversion rate? You start running some back of a napkin math, and now it gives you an idea of how much it's going to cost. You factor in any contributed overhead, which would be the cost they will put into hiring you. And then you realize that for every sale, they're going to lose a shitload of money. And so now you can start talking about the funnel. Now you can start talking about the function of the marketing campaign. They may not know any of this stuff, and they may be struggling, and they're hiring you as the last great hope that your lead page is going to change their world. And maybe this sales letter that you write is going to save their life because they heard Gary Halbert say that any problem can be solved with a sales letter. There are some problems that mathematically will not be feasible to solve with what they've been doing in the past. But if you know they're bringing in clicks at 80 cents a piece after we've contributed the full overhead associated with their email newsletter, the full overhead associated with a particular marketing channel, the full overhead tied to a particular pay-per-click campaign, then you can do this all day long and take credit for the positive successes that they achieve with your copy over anything they've done in the past. This is now going into retention of the customer. But what if they have a $397 $3,997 coaching program with a 25% margin, which leaves you $999.25 as your profit per sale. And they're for every 200 people who see the offer, they get one conversion. Now they can spend $4.99 at a maximum cost per click. And you probably see how your options increase dramatically. So it's fine just to write copy for people. But if you're not minding the math side, then they won't be able to generate enough revenue to recover your costs. Now, in a more advanced program, if we were talking about coaching and showing you how to do the conversion side, because it's very, very profitable on the conversion side if the customer is willing to work with you. And you do need a certain amount of impressions to know. If you just get 200 impressions, you're not magically going to get one sale. You need to have like 1,500 impressions, 2,500 impressions before the numbers are going to work out 200 to 1. And that's why we need to run campaigns for a little bit of time. But just this conversation shows the client that you have an idea of how to make money. Because you have an idea of how to make money, and you're even willing to put your pay as part of their costs, and that might lower their margin. They might say, I got a 50% margin. And you say, okay, well, what's your volume? And based on that, you determine they have an overall profit for this particular campaign in the past, and we want to beat the profit, of course, and the original profit is $30,000, and now you're going to charge them $10,000, so now the net profit is $20,000. You need to beat the 30, and so you're already negative. But if you do that, you've made a significant improvement over their work, their previous activities, and you can show this on a whiteboard. You've essentially guaranteed to be re-upped. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to keep able to beat your own stuff. It doesn't work that way. But like I said before, with the ecosystem, let's say you sit down and you notice the opt-in is converting very strong from Facebook, and you've got your pixels in place. Okay, we could talk about that some other time, but if you use your retargeting pixels and you got a strong run from Facebook, and now you say, well, you know what? Could we do this in Twitter as well? You add the Twitter pixels, you drop an email list down of the opt-ins, you upload them to the right channels, you rerun your campaigns that work very well in Facebook, you rerun your campaigns that start working well in Twitter, and you start cross-pollinating, and now you've got two feeders sending to the website, and now you can keep that customer so busy optimizing each of those channels that you'll just get a consistent ongoing revenue source from that client, because they're going to keep hiring you back because you've actually done something. They can now know that if they can afford to pay $4.99 per click, now it's how many more places can we find to get clicks? And of the leads, how many more places can we find where those people exist? And of the conversion, how many more places can we find of those people who buy or pay, stay, and refer? Then you come back and you say, okay, well, you're offering a $397 product, and we want to be able to spend more money per click. And they say, why would we want to spend more? Well, if we can spend more, we can have a larger product on the back end and still break even. So now, for everybody who bought the paid consultation, we're now going to offer the coaching. So now the paid consultation goes in the column where the email used to be. And for every 200 people who previously bought a paid consultation who see the offer about coaching, one of those is going to buy. As the company grows, as the business grows, now you're going to be able to in-house track these costs per clicks and conversion. And as that number increases, now we can afford to pay more on the front end, because we're now in our business converting from house lists. There are no competitors that are going to see that. We can start doing micro-segmenting. We can start doing different types of cash surge events. And ultimately, you're now working with a client in an agency capacity rather than a one-off freelance copywriter. Now, we already do these things as an agency, and we can come in at your request working for you as a copywriter. You own the customer. And we can do these things, build up these charts, and establish the models necessary in order for you to keep writing copy over and over, more copy, repeat customers, referrals, because they know that you're making them money. They know that your stuff works because it's objectively measured. Now, what is the caveat? Because I know a lot of you folks are saying, well, shoot, I like math. I'm not going to write copy. I'm going to go ahead and be in the conversion agency business, and I'm going to go ahead and start helping people with conversion. Well, here's the problem with that. Okay, so the ecosystem is rather large. The media ecosystem lets you post something on one website, and it goes out to 5 websites, and it sends it to from 5 different audiences, and you can do ads and scale ads and stuff. Once it's set up, it's not something you got to do every day. So it's something that's useful once analytics works, and you know the number of impressions, and you know the earning per 1,000 impressions for even your website. Now you got to write more copy. So actually, once we set up the conversion rate tracking, once we know the metrics are in place, you don't have to come back except for every 3 months to tune it. And that means that you're not going to be getting any revenue between point A and point B. Now, of course, in my case, we've got a handful of clients. We're busy, so I'm not asking you to send me people. I'm just trying to say to you that you need to be aware of the conversion optimization, but the actual implementation of conversion optimization is writing better copy. It's writing more copy. It's A/B testing landing pages. It's having a landing page for every significant offer. So if they have a high ticket offer, you might have a custom landing page just for that high ticket offer. All of the structure, all the pixels, all the tracking codes, all of the conversion math, which very often can be done on the back of a napkin. All of that stuff is baked in. You don't have to reinstall it. However, if you're going to test product A/B split landing pages, and then A/B split a sales letter or elements of a sales letter, that's copy. That's more copy. So you're in the right place, writing the copy and helping with the marketing funnels and stacking offers on top of each other and measuring the conversion rates. But the technical side of it only needs to be set up once. Now, it can break, so we offer an auditing service that helps monitor this stuff that you can offer to your client as a value add. But ultimately, the copywriting business is the multiplier, where the conversion business is the measurements. They are both necessary, but once the conversion side is set up, it's not an everyday activity where new content based on what you know about buyers could be every day. More offers based on what we know is converting every day. Product development, that's why I do technical writing, and that's why I do white papers and course design, is because there is a lot of that can happen, especially if they've got big mailing lists. You can literally prospect, survey an audience and develop new products. But again, once you understand this math and you apply it to what we're doing here, now you can help the customer see that they're actually making money. But the technical setup is, if it's done right the first time, it only needs maintenance as the platforms change, not as it breaks. A lot of stuff on the internet tends to break, but we can monitor for that. We can do a break fix, and then we're done. So I want you to be familiar with the conversion optimization. I will teach you how to do the conversion optimization, especially the measurements to know what works and what doesn't. And I will show you how to do all this technical syndication. But it is definitely not creative. It can be boring at times. It can be repetitive. And so I don't recommend changing your whole agency. As a publisher, I have people on staff that does this kind of stuff all the time because we have multiple publications. And then again, it really is the leverage from the copy that makes things work. So I hope this has been useful. I know I'm doing a lot of mini courses lately, 30-minute, 40-minute presentations. If you want to go into depth about conversion rate optimization and then exactly how we apply copy to increase the conversions, because that 200 to 1 is really a worst case scenario. But if they're not even making the worst case scenario, you got to be able to show them that, because their fundamental beliefs about what should be the copy are wrong if they're not actually getting a conversion for every 200 impressions. Now, that conversion, of course, can be an opt-in. It can be an actual sale. It can be a low-ticket sale. It can be a high-ticket sale. If you want to drill down into those things in depth, I do have a course on performance metrics. where we go into details about what to measure, how to measure it, how to do these back of napkin things that you can actually do in your client meeting, and then how to use it in your pricing model to know how much the customer can pay in order to get sales. And so literally what we're doing is, and I've titled this program Paid Ad Money, because literally what we're doing in the organic world is testing to determine what works, getting some general numbers, and then we're amplifying that in the paid advertising world by writing more ad campaigns, more landing pages, more sales letters with the measurements in place so that we can multiply our successes, so that we can syndicate, so that we can, if you got a campaign you're spending $5 a day on and it's converting consistently and your measures are accurate, you can put that at $10 a day. And these platforms, if you do this right, these platforms won't be able to send you enough traffic that you're willing to pay for. So your clients will be like, I've got more money, where else can I spend it? And they can, of course, spend it with you as you help them refine their copy, to help them understand metrics and conversion, to help them place ads in the right mediums. They might go from pay-per-click to actual magazine placements, to postcard campaigns, to direct mail campaigns, and actually build a good business. This is so much easier with high-ticket products, but if they're a catalog site or they're selling widgets, then it's still just as important. So if you wanted more information about that course, or you want one-on-one coaching about how to implement this in your copywriting business as we move from freelance copywriter, a commodity business, to a value-added marketing agency, then visit me at www.adbriefings.co.uk. You can ask your questions on the contact page. Of course, you can join our free newsletter. But let me know if you'd like to sit down one-on-one, or you'd like more information about the course about performance measurements, so that you can actually know that the customer's getting results. Not only are they getting results, but the more results they get, the more money they can pay you and still be profitable, because you'll know their numbers. And knowing their numbers helps them get more results. It's exponentially compounding, and the value is beyond what they're going to get just going to a freelance marketplace. But it's not that hard to understand. As Dan Kennedy says, marketing is behavioral science and math. You can get the math down in an afternoon, but once you've got it, how you implement it, how you test it, the nuances of the copy start revealing themselves, and you become indispensable to your clients. And rather than them shopping around, they're going to know they make money with you, and they're going to want you on their team. They're going to try to hire you as an employee. I guess this really does create other problems, but if you have the marketing agency structure, again, an agency in this model could be you and an assistant. But the long story short, you can justify your existence in their world and increase your rates, increase your margins. You can even apply this stuff to yourself as you acquire new clients. That's why I use the paid consultation model example. But this is powerful stuff. So I don't want to hold you on here any longer. I'm going to stop the recording and start taking some questions. And for those of you that want to go into more depth that are listening to this recording on the podcast, if you like this mini course format, let me know in the comments. Let me know by liking and subscribing, which doesn't really matter to me at all. What matters the most is that you visit www.adbriefings.co.uk and ask your questions or share your comments so that we can deliver more of this value in the future. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefings Copywriting Tips. I've got more than 20 or 30 years of copywriting experience, but really I haven't been doing this really the right way until I ran across some of the mentors that I've shared with you in this program and in my other programs. You'll find a lot of free resources at the website, and I'm here to help you get 6 figures or better from your copywriting activity as we learn how to write words that sell.